Like any normal person, chances are you found yourself at least once saying that there just aren't enough hours in the day to do what you need to do, or if only there were two of you. But in the world of Naruto, characters, they don't have this problem because they can just mold chakra and perform ninjutsu to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu to make a physical copy, or in the case of Naruto Uzumaki, thousands of copies of himself when Naruto uses the multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. However, there's more to the Shadow Clone Jutsu than just mold some chakra and out pops a physical copy of yourself. And even though there have been multiple videos on YouTube that have discussed shadow clones, I want to go deeper beneath the surface than just talking about the jutsu itself. And I want to provide you with new information that pertains to shadow clones that if you're an anime only viewer, or even if you're someone who has read the manga, you might not know this stuff about shadow clones unless you are the most hardcore of hardcore Naruto fans. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video, where we take a extremely in-depth look into how the Shadow Clone Jutsu works for the new installment of the Ninjutsu Handbook, including interesting facts the anime and manga never told you. Now, let's start off with the really easy stuff first and work our way to the newer and more complex aspects of the jutsu. The basic Shadow Clone Jutsu, it is a B rank jutsu, being the third highest ranked jutsu a shinobi can learn. Initially, it was a jutsu that was expected of Jonin caliber shinobi to know how to perform, since in the Ninja Academy, students who go on to become Genin are taught the clone jutsu, which is rooted in yin release and is merely an illusion, whereas shadow clones, they are yang release chakra and it has a tangible body. However, as we see, even though it's not expected of a Genin to know how to do the Shadow Clone Jutsu, let alone the multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, there are shinobi who are talented enough that they can perform both. When a ninja makes shadow clones, it splits their chakra evenly amongst themselves and the number of clones they make. So if you make one shadow clone, then you give up half of your chakra to your clone. And if you perform the multi-shadow clone jutsu to say make 3 shadow clones, then you split your chakra 25% between yourself and the other 3 clones. Basically, the larger amount of chakra you have, the more shadow clones you can make. And so for that reason, the multi-shadow clone jutsu, it can rapidly deplete the number of jutsu you can perform because it depletes the amount of chakra that a shinobi can use. It's due to that last part that the first Hokage deemed the multi-shadow clone jutsu a forbidden jutsu and had it listed in the Forbidden Jutsu scroll that contains the Forbidden Jutsu in Konoha, the same scroll that Naruto stole in chapter 1 of the manga itself. Which, reminder, Tobirama might have been the one who created the jutsu, but it was Hashirama as Hokage who decided it was a forbidden jutsu. Most people don't have the monster chakra reserves to continuously make and use several shadow clones for extended periods of time, the way we see Naruto casually making hundreds of clones, because it requires enormous amounts of chakra, and Naruto just happens to have access to the Nine Tails chakra, which is mixing into his own chakra pool, thus enabling him to use it. Due to shadow clones being physical, that's the key distinction between them and the basic Clone Jutsu Academy students learn. Shadow clones can move on their own, they have independent thoughts and will, but the drawback is that when the shadow clone is dispelled or destroyed, the fatigue and knowledge gained by the clone, as well as any remaining chakra that was unused, they're all transferred back to the original user's body, which is part of why the jutsu is forbidden. It's a lot easier to die from exhaustion this way. Another thing about the Shadow Clone Jutsu is that even though it can make an identical copy of the user itself, there are other small details that the trained eye can catch if they are paying close enough attention to spot it if they're facing a shadow clone or not. For the most part, if you make a shadow clone and you have a kunai, then your shadow clone will have a kunai and the weapons that you have, but there are exceptions to this. Things like the truth-seeking orbs, that someone who is using 6-pass chakra as a 10-tails Jinchuriki, their shadow clones will not manifest truth-seeking orbs, only the original have them, as shown in Naruto chapter 675, and in the Boruto era, as shown in chapter 22 of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. Certain types of technology can't be duplicated by the clone either. Now, there are other subtle drawbacks to the Shadow Clone Jutsu as well. Originally in Naruto chapter 100, we see shadow clones can even fool people who have a dojutsu, since Naruto's shadow clones originally fooled Neji's Byakugan, and he couldn't tell which was the real Naruto at first glance by looking at him, and he had to assess Naruto's attack patterns to find the real Naruto. But by Naruto chapter 601, we see that the Rinnegan is different. Madara knew right away by looking at the shadow clone of Naruto that it was a shadow clone because of the Rinnegan. Now, if you're an anime-only fan of the series, you might be going, wait a second, this is a gotcha moment, and you might say, Naruto explained. Sasuke's Sharingan could see Naruto was using a shadow clone in the original of Naruto Part 1, but this is an error that was made by Studio Pierrot in the anime itself. That scene is an anime only, and it directly contradicts the manga as well as future episodes of the anime. The other drawback to using shadow clones is durability. Depending on how hard they get struck, they get destroyed pretty easily, but as the series goes on, we see that the user grows stronger, and as they grow stronger, their shadow clones become more durable. Hence, Naruto had dozens of clones, fighting on several battles during the Fourth Ninja War, sustaining injuries, and still fighting without the clones dispersing. As previously stated, when shadow clones do disperse, you get more than just fatigue, but also the memories of the clone, which makes them ideal for stealth missions to gather intel in hostile areas. But if your chakra pool is large enough, like say Naruto, you can use shadow clones to get several years of training done in a short period of time. This is how Naruto completed the change in chakra nature drill training for Wind Release, which was said to take 6 months of training just to learn how to cut the leaf. And it took years of change in chakra nature drill training for most shinobi to achieve a change in chakra nature. Yet Naruto did it in only a few days. Shadow clones also have another drawback in that they are deeply connected to the user spiritually. As shown when Naruto is feeling pain of the Nine Tails chakra, all of his shadow clones reacted to the pain as well, as shown in Naruto chapter 277. Keeping in line with the spiritual side, which is yin chakra, shadow clones also have another drawback when it comes to yin related things. So basically thinking and meditation. When carrying out tasks that require intense concentration, it doesn't matter if you can make 1,000 shadow clones like Naruto. It doesn't matter if you make 10,000 shadow clones. If you're being forced to concentrate heavily, the clones are capped at the number you can make based on how much attention is being focused on your current task. So we see this when the Edo Tensei Hokage are using a barrier to contain the Ten Tails. Every Kage who tried to make a shadow clone, they were limited while concentrating on keeping the barrier up. So Minato could only make 1 clone. Hashirama could only make 4 clones. Tobirama could only make 2 clones in Naruto chapter 637. And in Naruto chapter 434, Naruto, who isn't particularly good at yin-related things like meditation and studying, he had a limit for the number of shadow clones he could make that could sit still and meditate to gather nature energy. By his own words, making too many shadow clones will distract them when trying to gather nature energy, which is why he was capped at 3 shadow clones on the battlefield and a certain number at Mount Miyaboku. So in the Boruto era and the Boruto movie novel written by the former Boruto writer Ukyo Kodachi, which is based off of Kishimoto's movie script, as well as a couple of other novels set in the Boruto era, it makes it clear that Naruto still has problems with clones even when he's not gathering nature energy. He's just better at it. Having clones going out to carry the Hokage duties around the village, holds several conversations, which Naruto is not so skilled, which Naruto is now so skilled with shadow clones. He is 100% aware of what his clones are saying and doing in real time, that it adds to his own mental fatigue, which makes it harder for Naruto to focus on his paperwork because he's basically reading important documents while also aware of every conversation his shadow clones are having all around the village. And for someone like Naruto, who was never the best when it came to knowledge-based stuff, this is an absolute nightmare. However, let's go even deeper here and let's look at some of the more unexplored things regarding the Shadow Clone Jutsu that I haven't seen covered too much, if at all. Like, for instance, the whole concepts of shadow clones is literally a love letter to the story Journey to the West, a classic Chinese story that inspired Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball, but also chunks of Naruto, like the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the way that Sun Wukong used his version of shadow clones is similar to how Naruto uses them for diversions and trickery and confusion-based tactics against his enemies. However, let's go even deeper into the real-life ninja inspirations, the Japanese folklore, and the spiritual concepts of Buddhism and Shintoism. So the real-life ninja tactics are as follows. The idea of creating multiple versions of oneself aligns with historical ninja, shinobi basically, in terms of deception tactics. So real ninjas use kage no jutsu to mislead enemies. Some of these methods included misdirection and disguises, because ninjas were known to disguise themselves as monks and peasants and even enemy soldiers to confuse their pursuers. In real life, ninjas and warlords would use shadow warriors or body doubles to deceive enemies into attacking the wrong target. A famous historical example is Takeda's Shingen, who used a body double to mislead his enemies. Also, you have psychological warfare. So ninjas use tricks like moving torches or footprints in multiple directions to make it seem like there are more of them. Basically, make it seem like those are shadow clones. These are real-life tactics that mirror how Naruto and other characters who use shadow clones, they do so to trick their opponents and gain an advantage in battle. When you get into the Shinto and Buddhist inspirations, it gets really interesting. So the concept of shadow clones connects to the religious and mythological themes in Japan. The religious aspect, Buddhism, it's the illusion of multiplicity. So Buddhism teaches that reality is transient and often illusionary. The idea of creating clones can symbolize the illusion of life itself, which aligns with the Buddhist philosophy. Avatars of a single essence. In Buddhist mythology, enlightened beings can manifest multiple forms in order to guide different people. This resembles how Naruto splits his chakra amongst his clones. You also have the Jizo-batsu parallel. So Jizu, a Buddhist deity, is said to create countless copies of himself to help suffering beings in different realms. Naruto, he uses shadow clones to train, scout, and fight multiple places at once. That reflects this idea. That's why Naruto had dozens of shadow clones in the Fourth Ninja War. Now, when you get into the Shinto portion of it, the power of shadows and spirits is also there as well. So Shinto kami, they exist in nature. The concept of shadow clones, it links to doppelgangers in Shinto lore. Japanese folklore speaks of living spirits that can leave a person's body and act independently, much like how shadow clones can be manifested from somebody's chakra and act independently. Shadows are also extensions of the soul in Shinto. Shadows and reflections were sometimes considered to hold a spiritual essence, paralleling how shadow clones contain part of the user's chakra. This makes even more sense when you look into some of the folklore, because Naruto is based off of like the fox spirit, and foxes play tricks. Foxes have also made doubles of themselves in some of the folklore. Other Japanese folklore include several stories about beings or warriors duplicating themselves. You have traditional ninja legends that mention techniques where ninjas could leave behind wooden logs or illusions to escape. That's why you see the substitution jutsu in Naruto, for example. You also have the Tengu and shapeshifters, Tengu being mythical bird-like creatures who are believed to possess magical skills, including cloning themselves to fight against samurai. You also have Kojiki and dual selves. In Japanese oldest chronicles, gods like Susanoo and Amaterasu, they created duplicates or illusions of themselves, a divine parallel to shadow clones in those stories. In conclusion, Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu takes inspiration from historical ninja deception, Buddhist beliefs about multiple existences, and Shinto ideals of spirits and shadows. The technique, it blends real-world tactics with spiritual and mythical concepts, making it one of the most symbolic and thematically rich abilities in the Naruto franchise. And hopefully after this video, you have a deeper appreciation for the next time you see Naruto performing the multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out more videos here from Naruto Explained, or clicking over here to check out videos from my Anime Explained channel, where I talk about non-Naruto content in the form of video essays, lore videos, explained videos, and so much more.